So moving on to wealth distribution. The reason why we have reached a state of affairs in which we have unprecedented level in U.S. history of public debt could be explained as A, the rich are not paying their fair share, or B, government is spending too much money. Now, explanations A and B represent evaluative statements about why public debt has reached such an extraordinary level. Based on your personal values, you are likely to embrace one or the other explanations as the reason. A few of you who are politically more moderate might conclude it's a combination of A and B, a combination of both explanations. The evaluative conclusion have policy implications. We can either tax the rich or cut government spending or do both. Now, in 2019, 1% of taxpayers reported $475,116 or more in annual income. Now, in a family where you have two professionals, it's very easy to get up into that kind of category. But look at the professions: physicians, lawyers, CEOs, professionals, celebrities, 57 members of Congress, and these two-income families who have a combination of salaries that jointly contribute to the total taxpayer amount. So in 2013, the top 1% paid 37.88% of the collected income taxes. The top 10% paid 69.8%, and the top 25% paid 86.27%. The top 50% paid 97.22%. The bottom 50% only paid 2.78%. So we have a theory we call it progressive taxation. The more that you earn, the more you're expected to pay in taxes. And this is why that bottom 50% of income earners pay such a small amount, because they earn so much less than others. So, according to Forbes, the net worth of the top 600 billionaires in May 2020 was $3.4 trillion. So if you were to wipe out the personal worth of the top 600 wealthiest Americans, you would barely make a dent in our debt. This is terrifying. We don't have enough wealthy people. In addition, the government has future public liabilities and other financial commitments such as federal pensions, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid payments promised to Americans that are not included in these debt numbers. So we can see the facts differ from values, but they are inherently linked as well. The result of this relationship leads us to conclude that facts and even ideas are not value-free. Rather, one's values influences one's evaluation of the facts. It is difficult to completely set aside one's values and investigate an issue in a manner that is completely free of bias. And so, one solution, this idea of a progressive tax system and taxing the wealthy people more, it's based on this value that you think those people who are more able to afford higher taxes ought to be the ones paying them, and those who have less of an ability to contribute should pay less. But the fact of the matter is the American tax code as a whole is almost perfectly flat. The bottom 20% of earners make 3% of the income and pay 2% of the taxes. The middle 20% make 11% and pay 10%. And the top 1% make 21% and pay 22%. According to a liberal commentator in The Economist, you couldn't have drawn it up any better. To start with, to go after the wealthy, what we'd have to do is to eliminate the flat payroll tax and its $110,000 income ceiling and replace that revenue with progressive income tax. Part of why the system isn't more progressive is because of that cap at $110,000. So you could earn $1 million, but only the first $110,000 is going to be subject to this tax. By removing the cap, it exposes more of the income to taxation. Now, you would also, because we're still far short of where we need to pay off our debt, we'd have to tax dividends and capital gains as ordinary income. So it'd be subject to that higher income tax. Then we'd have to modify sales tax by, say, taxing things rich people buy, like yachts, at a higher rate than things poor people buy, like generic brand groceries, according to a liberal commentator in The Economist. Now, we have tried taxing things that wealthy people purchase. We did that for a couple of years, and that didn't work, and so they rescinded that. The problem is people produce the goods that wealthy people purchase, and when you tax it at a higher rate, they purchase less of it, which means factories were laying off workers as a consequence. So that didn't work out quite as planned. Corporate tax. You know, we talk about taxing corporations. Oh, we're not taxing corporations enough. Well, so here's the thing. Countries like Sweden that have lower corporate taxes, they must tax the middle class more to make up for the lower corporate taxes, because the problem here is the amount that government is spending is unchanging. So we got to figure out, where do we take this money from the economy. In the U.S., we tax corporations more, but we tax the middle class less as a consequence. But think about it. The corporations pass on that tax burden by increasing prices on the goods and services that we purchase. They're not going to take it on the chin. So for middle class people, they're still feeling the pinch of the tax system, because the goods and services that they're purchasing also include that corporate tax added into the purchase price for those goods and services. So it's a very complicated issue. So the other value could be cut spending. Well, why don't we just cut government spending, spend less? That way we won't keep racking up debt, and then things would be much better. Well, here's the harsh reality. Most of the budget is untouchable unless major entitlement reform occurs. And this is politically unpopular, and this is politically unpopular among everyone. It's not a Republican thing or a Democrat thing. We find under Republican administration, entitlement spending increases. The only difference is it doesn't increase at the same rate as it does under a Democratic administration. Democratic administration, we see entitlement monies increase at a faster rate. And so, again, politicians are accountable to the people. It's not popular with the people. And so that value, cutting spending, also is not very workable. So, in conclusion, oftentimes people divide theory between two categories. Those that are empirical, based on facts, and those that are normative, based on values. Theory is always both empirical and normative. They interpenetrate. One cannot exist without the other. And so when you're thinking about policies this semester, think about the fact that we have the facts, but we also have the values. So there we stand.